In the 19th century, Frederic Edwin Church became the most famous artist in the United States, best known for his adventurous travels and bold paintings of the natural world. Born in Hartford, Connecticut in 1826, the gifted Frederic Church decided at a young age that he wanted to become an artist. The art collector Daniel Wadsworth persuaded the landscape painter Thomas Cole to accept Church as his pupil. In 1844, 18-year-old Frederic went to study with Cole in Catskill, New York, on the banks of the Hudson River, and accompanied him on sketching excursions in the nearby Catskill Mountains. Cole noted that Church had the finest eye for drawing in the world. In 1848, at age 22, Church became the youngest artist to be elected to the National Academy of Design. Frederic Church established a studio in New York City and quickly gained a reputation for expansive New England views that synthesized intensive plein air studies into vivid compositions. In 1857, Church rose to national and international prominence with his 7-foot-wide panoramic painting, Niagara, which stunned spectators throughout the country and in Great Britain. One critic famously wrote, "This is Niagara with the roar left out." By this time, Church had also become enraptured with the work of the renowned naturalist and explorer, Alexander von Humboldt. Humboldt implored artists to travel and capture the majesty of the natural world, particularly in South America. In 1853, Church made the first of 2 expeditions following in Humboldt's footsteps through the Andean region. His resulting 1859 masterpiece, The Heart of the Andes, is a huge 10-foot painting that he exhibited in dramatic fashion. It was the blockbuster art event of the decade and stunned audiences in New York City and around the country. His friend, Mark Twain, wrote, "You will never get tired of looking at the picture." And a New York paper wrote, "A new picture by Mr. Church is as considerable an event in the world of art as a new novel by Victor Hugo or a new poem by Tennyson would be in the literary world." It was during the exhibition of The Heart of the Andes that Frederic met Isabel Carnes. They married in 1860 and purchased a hillside farm in Hudson, New York, directly across the Hudson River from the home of his late teacher, Thomas Cole. This property formed the seed of his greatest artistic endeavor, Olana. Church's artistic appetite for the natural world brought him to the North Atlantic between Labrador and Newfoundland to sketch icebergs. 1865, Frederic and Isabel traveled to Jamaica, which led to some of Church's most vivid oil studies of botanical growth and tropical light. In 1867, Church and his family embarked on an old-world painting pilgrimage to the Alps, Rome, Athens, and the Eastern Mediterranean, including Damascus, Jerusalem, and Petra. When Church returned from his voyage, another visionary series of paintings emerged, and his artistic work began to extend beyond the canvas to the design of Olana's 250-acre landscape. During this period, Church also accepted the role of Parks Commissioner in New York City's Central Park and became a founding trustee of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Church also helped to establish a campaign to create a public park along the American and Canadian borders of Niagara Falls, an iconic landscape challenged by increased 19th century industrialization. With Frederick Law Olmsted, Calvert Vaux, and others, the artist Frederic Church advocated for the first state park in New York, the Niagara Reservation, a forerunner to the national parks movement. Frederic Church's Olana, an artist's home and studio, an experiential and environmental work of art, a 250-acre earthwork, a New York State historic site and public park, a regional economic engine, a national historic landmark, a viewing platform toward the American sublime, a mega artifact, a national preservation victory, the most intact historic artist's environment in the United States. Olana inspires, It immerses the visitor in a great 19th century American artist's vision that lives today as a compelling creative laboratory. Frederic Church envisioned Olana as a 250-acre environment, masterfully combining architectural, agricultural, park, and wilderness elements into a single artistic composition. Church wrote, "I can make more and better landscapes in this way than by tampering with canvas and paint in the studio." From Olana, one can see 4 states, and Church designed this work of environmental art around its near and distant views, now considered Olana's integral viewshed. Olana is an exalted hill of art. With its vast collections and protected views, Olana has stood the test of time and today thrives as a public work of American landscape art. Yet it was all nearly lost. After Isabel and Frederick's deaths, Olana passed to their son, Louis, and his wife, Sally. They cherished and preserved Olana for more than half of the 20th century, but Louis died in 1943 and Sally in 1964, at which time Olana faced an uncertain future. Frederic Church was largely forgotten, and the Hudson River School largely unappreciated. A place like Olana was no longer valued. In this period, when iconic landmarks such as New York's Pennsylvania Station and the famed Catskill Mountain House were destroyed, Olana's collections were tagged for auction. This masterwork of American landscape art was to be sold and dispersed. David Huntington, the activist art historian, led the battle to save Olana from destruction in the mid-1960s, forcing the reappraisal of the American landscape tradition in art and culture. He identified Olana as the monument of Emerson's, Thoreau's, and Whitman's America, and inspired a Life magazine illustrated feature that brought national attention to this pending disaster with an article titled "An Imperiled American Treasure." Saving Olana was a landmark public and private effort, engaging local citizens and national figures, including Jackie Kennedy and Governor Nelson Rockefeller, who pressed legislation to preserve Olana as a New York State Historic Site in 1966. From this miraculous preservation victory, the Olana Partnership emerged as a committed nonprofit steward that champions and interprets Olana as a national landmark of American landscape and environmental thinking. Our precedent-setting advocacy to protect Olana's viewshed yielded dramatic results for the Hudson Valley and the country as a whole. In the 1970s, a successful campaign prevented the construction of a nuclear plant on the river below Olana, enlisting art and cultural historians and curators nationwide to establish aesthetic impact as a measurable criterion in the federal environmental review process. In the late 1990s, joining with Scenic Hudson and the grassroots Friends of Hudson, the Olana Partnership used these tools to stop the construction of a massive coal-fired cement plant on a prominent ridge just east of Olana. As it evolved from one staff member to a talented professional team with an engaged board of trustees, the Olana Partnership championed the comprehensive restoration of Olana and the understanding of it as a holistic work of art, an artist-designed environment in which Church's creation of the landscape with the farm complex at its heart is fundamental to understanding his legacy as a painter and national cultural figure.
He was trying to show us things beyond just a picture. He was trying to get us to think about the cycles of nature and about life itself.
"2026 will mark the 200th anniversary of Frederic Church's birth. As the stewards of Church's legacy, the Olana Partnership is committed to ensuring that Church is celebrated as one of the greatest artists in the history of the United States, whose work was in conversation with science and global culture. No other American artist in the 19th century achieved his level of fame. Church's vision took him from working with paint and canvas in the studio to creating Olana, a masterwork of landscape architecture and design. Olana narrowly escaped destruction in the 1960s and has evolved into the national landmark it is today, the most intact historic artist environment in the nation and possibly the world.
I personally think he's the greatest landscape painter of the 19th century, if not the greatest of all time.
Frederic Church is critical to defining who we are as a country. He gave us the picture of ourselves. The landscape view is how we remember and think of America today.
Yet Frederic Church is still not widely known. Over the last decade, the The Olana Partnership, in cooperation with New York State Parks, has spearheaded initiatives to bring church and Olana forward, fostering research and scholarship, engaging contemporary artists, writers, architects, landscape architects, and conservation partners. Olana has welcomed an ever more diverse audience of regional, national, and international visitors. The Olana Partnership's public programs, annual exhibitions, and comprehensive tour experiences enable the public to enter the world of Frederic Church.
Church was involved in the design of the house, the design of the landscape, used the site as his painting studio, and considered his landscape design one of his great works.
In anticipation of the 2026 celebration, great plans are underway. The nationally recognized Olana Strategic Landscape Design Plan has activated restoration projects around Olana's main house and in the historic farm complex, increasing access and interpretation to Olana as a complete work of art, which combines architectural, agricultural, and wilderness ideas into a singular environmental composition, all designed by Frederic Church around Olana's astonishing 360-degree views. Led by Nelson Bird Woltz landscape architects and a team of private and public professionals, this plan has led us to the Frederic Church Center for Art and Landscape. The building was designed by award-winning architects Adam Urinsky and Kim Yao of Architecture Research Office. Fueled by strong private support, the Frederic Church Center has now become a New York State priority project. Construction has begun, and this new Welcome Center, an interpretive threshold into the world of Frederic Church and Olana, is scheduled to open to the public in 2024 as part of the New York State Parks Centennial Celebration.
How do I feel about Olana? I feel like it's one of the great places in this country. And what do I see as its future? I think it's going to be ever more enjoyed by an ever more appreciative public.
In the meantime, acclaimed author Victoria Johnson is deep into travel, research, and writing for the first holistic biography of Frederic Church as painter, landscape architect, and environmentalist. We eagerly await a book which tells a broader story of Church as a person, explorer, and cultural figure.
His paintings are not photographic. They tell stories about the American place in the world, about the great struggles of the American 19th century, industrialization, slavery, the Civil War, and Reconstruction. He was a master and an innovator in turning landscape painting into a portrait of a nation.
The paintings are just endlessly kind of rich, and then of course what he did in Olana is another thing altogether.
There's really no one else who operates as the author. Maybe Thomas Jefferson was similarly someone who understood composition and design and architecture.
What makes his magic is that he had this creative vision where the science and the geology and the divine light are all kind of humming there together.